Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Malinoff, and with me, as always, is Mark Souza. We're going to be talking about the Nick Foles conundrum that my co-host, Mark, wanted to call it, as well as other situations, mock drafts, and free agent talks, and all that good stuff, so is Antonio Brown's situation with domestic violence. But since the title of this is Nick Foles Conundrum, we're going to talk about Nick Foles and the conundrum the Eagles have of what to do with him, because he has opted out of his contract. He can be a free agent, but they can still franchise tag him and use him as a trade. What would the word be? A trade piece, in theory. Trade him for a couple of picks, maybe, in theory. But if you're the Eagles, what are you expecting to get from Nick Foles if you do?
We should probably explain how this all came about first, right?
Okay. Go for it.
So the Eagles picked up his option, $20 million to pick up the team option on him. Then Nick Foles did have it in his contract that he could buy out his option for $2 million. So he paid the Eagles. He wrote them a cashier's check. This actually happened. A cashier's check for $2 million.
Imagine wish you could write a check for $2 billion. Yeah, I was about to say, can't you just write a check for $2 million? Life would be good.
So because he wrote the $2 million buyout, he avoided that team option by the Eagles. But yes, as we know, the Eagles could, in theory, franchise tag Nick Foles. With that being said, they would obviously be doing that with the intention of trading him. I don't think they want to pay him upwards of $25, $26, maybe $27 million for the season as a backup quarterback. But you do possibly get some value back return because of a trade from a quarterback-needy team. And, okay, so what was your question?
Well, my question to you was, if you're the Eagles, what are you expecting through the trade? Like, if they do this, if they do a franchise tag and they do trade, go up to try to trade him, what are you asking for? What are you expecting if you're the Eagles? Like, are you expecting a second-round pick? Are you expecting
I'm asking for a first-round pick.
I don't think they're getting a first.
You didn't say what they were going to get. You asked me what I would be asking for. I'd be asking for a first-round pick. I don't think they'll get anything better than maybe a second-round pick. If I had to guess, maybe a third-round pick. I think a second or a third, maybe a combination of the two rounds, something like that. That's what I would expect them to ultimately get in return from a quarterback-needy team. Because, look, if you're a team that trades for Nick Foles, let's just say you give up a pick, you still need to sign him long-term. You still got to trade for him and then pay the man. Mm-hmm. You're going to be forking out a lot of money in addition to using a pick or multiple picks or other assets to acquire Nick Foles. So what do you think? Do you think a second or third round pick? Like, what if you're Jacksonville? What is the value to Jacksonville?
The reason I'm hesitant in Nick Foles is because this has happened before. He's left Philadelphia after pretty positive seasons and went to other teams and was a journeyman and never lived up to the hype of him after he left Philadelphia. Then he goes back to Philadelphia, wins a Super Bowl, becomes MVP of the Super Bowl, and now we're back to square one where he's now a commodity. But is he the same journeyman that he was once before, or is this a different Nick Foles than we've seen before? We don't know.
I could have sworn that you were the guy who really liked Nick Foles and thought maybe he should be the starting quarterback for the Eagles going forward, and they should possibly trade Carson Wentz.
I said that because there's something about him and the Eagles that works, but when he goes to other teams, something happens. That's what I was making my point.
So he's only good on the Eagles?
Well, what else? Like, his only success has been with Philadelphia.
Well, he's only really played for them. I mean, he played for a Jeff Fisher team.
He started for Kansas City, I believe. He also
he went to Kansas City. He got drafted by the Eagles. He made the Pro Bowl as an Eagle.
He went to Kansas City, played there. Then he
was a backup quarterback in Kansas City. He never got a chance to start.
Again, that's my point exactly. He never got really opportunities. But again, he was with a poor Jeff Fisher team in St. Louis. He just was a journeyman again. Like, I don't see – there was no other
he did, evidence. Though. You do have to understand that his first time in Philadelphia, it was not this Eagles team. It was a completely different Eagles team. It was with Chip Kelly, and he made the Pro Bowl.
Exactly my point. Like,
No, that's not exactly your point. That's against your point.
My point, my point is like something about the Eagles franchise is something like that's what I'm saying.
Okay, but that's a very obtuse thing to say.
Obtuse.
It was with two completely different teams, though. Like he was with a Chip Kelly offense and different players. The second time around, the Eagles, yes, it was the same franchise, but I believe 80-90% of the players were different. The head coach was different. The entire coaching staff was. I mean, it's a big difference, right?
I don't know.
It's one thing to say, like, he was only good in one situation, but that's two different situations. I mean, that's basically two different teams. It's the same city, but, yeah, that's where I'm getting at there is that I am wondering, though, because you were a big Nick Foles guy, but
I'm still a Nick Foles guy, but I just think there's so many different areas where I think his hype has gone to a point in where he's going to be overpaid.
Okay. I
think he could be a solid quarterback, but when I've heard of what things he's asked for, like a first-round pick and second-round pick, and then they're going to sign with this massive deal, then I'm thinking, wait, hold on a second. Asking for all this money, and he has had shows of major flaws in the past.
But I wanted to get that you would be okay if the Eagles traded Carson Wentz and signed Nick Foles to a big deal.
I would have understood why they did that.
Okay, gotcha. It's it is interesting because I mean the guy has proven himself to be a decent quarterback. Mm-hmm. There's nothing about it.
2 years in a row, this has happened in success with the Eagles. It just shows like you understood the situation of between Wentz and Foles because Foles has gotten them to the playoffs in multiple times. Like he didn't get them to the playoffs the first time, but he got them to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz struggled this season after coming off the ACL injury, which brings up major concerns. Foles came back into the lineup and got them to the playoffs again. Even got them past the Bears, if I remember correctly. And so my question to that is like my point is I understand why you would want to keep him in Philadelphia if you wanted to trade Wentz because of the concern about his ACL injury. I understood that. But I just other places in general, you really don't know. And I would love to see him be successful somewhere else, but there's a limit to what I would give up for him.
And that limit would be, in your estimation?
Like
if you were, let's say you're Jacksonville, you have a pretty decent team. You obviously have a high draft pick and other good draft picks because you're picking higher in the other rounds as well. So if you have the 6th pick, the 6th pick in round 2, the 6th pick in round 3.
The 6th pick in the second round seems even steep for me because that's still a very high pick.
But we are talking about the most important position on the team, right?
Granted, but again, look who's available in the draft. Haskins looks like a lot like a Nick Foles type quarterback. He has the size, he has the ability, and overall, like, would you rather give these rookies a chance who have all the potential in the world, or give it to this guy who has had mood swings, if you will? Jacksonville's in a very tough position right now because I understand if they want to go for Foles.
Jacksonville's a ready-to-win team right now, though, if they get a good quarterback, right? I mean, they damn near won the Super Bowl with a crappy quarterback 2 years ago.
So you're saying, well, but Haskins and Murray could be that guy.
But usually,
and that'll be cheaper because they'll be on rookie deals.
It would be cheaper. That I will definitely agree with that. But will it be worth it for Jacksonville to go through the growing pains of a quarterback who will probably need a year or two to get to that level capable of winning a Super Bowl. Whereas you have a Super Bowl ready quarterback now. Now cheaper? Absolutely.
And they are
but you
in
also
the red
run
when it comes to cap space.
You also run the risk of losing what you have going if you waited a couple years for that quarterback to develop. Because Jacksonville is not a cheap football team, and they're a good football team.
So you can't think Haskins or Murray can't perform right away. You don't see that happen.
I think it's very rare that a quarterback comes in and kills it right away. Absolutely. I don't know of any. When's the last quarterback came in and was awesome day one?
Ben Roethlisberger, actually.
Yeah, he was okay. I mean, he
took him to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he did decent.
He was undefeated.
I realized that, and he managed the game well. They had a really good team, but he wasn't great. He wasn't great right away. He took a couple years to develop. But is that the last one?
But, Baker Mayfield had the most touchdowns from any rookie quarterback in NFL history.
Right, but even Baker, it took him some time. It took him a few games to get into it. I don't know. I don't think Baker Mayfield could have won a Super Bowl this year, even as good as he looked. But what about all the other countless quarterbacks that came in? RG3 did pretty good his rookie year. Andrew Luck did all right. It is a huge risk. And are Haskins or Kyler Murray, are they good enough? I don't know.
But I feel like they have a team around they can put a team around a rookie quarterback and win because their defense is still stellar.
Right. That's what I'm saying, though. But will that quarterback hold them back when you know that a guy like Nick Foles has actually won a Super Bowl?
Look at some of the best defenses in NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the 2000 Ravens is a perfect example. I always looked at Trent Dilfer was that quarterback. He wasn't even the starting quarterback at the beginning. It was Banks, I believe. People don't remember who that was.
Mm-hmm. Tony Banks. Yeah, I think it was him.
And that means you can win with a below-average quarterback if your defense is that good. And I think their defense can be up to that level again. I honestly do. With a pretty good quarterback. And I think that a Murray or a Haskins can do that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, Haskins or Murray long-term is probably the better play. But if you're going to do that, I kind of feel like you got to blow up the team. You know what I mean? Because how many teams in the NFL can have a great defense for more than 2 years in a row? I don't remember the last time it happened. I know that
actually the Bears in 85 and 86. 86 was the better year than they had in 85.
So that was, 34 years ago, 33 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for teams like even the Ravens when they had a great defense. Even Seattle a couple years ago, they had a great defense for about 2 to 3 years, and then their defense was still good, but it wasn't.
That was
elite.
mainly injuries, I would believe. That
well,
really
it's free agency is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Players become expensive. It's a lot easier to have a franchise quarterback when we're looking at team building. It's really hard to keep a great defense together for more than 2 or 3 years instead of kind of shuffling and recycling defensive players through the draft and things like that while you have on the other side of the ball like a great quarterback. It's easier to build a team that way. You take care of one guy, like you get a Tom Brady type, Peyton Manning type, and then you build your defense, you build other positions through the draft, you get cheaper, and then ultimately you find a good mix of players of talent and low on the salary cap. So, yeah, I mean, I think for a team like Jacksonville, though, sure, they could go with the young quarterback, but there's no guarantee that young quarterback will be better than what they had this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
I think
honestly, I think they can do better regardless because of the fact how bad Blake Bortles was. So I think that's a key factor in that also because you can do better than Blake Bortles any way you look at it because that was a very poor performance he did have. So overall, you got to just look at it's up to Jacksonville to know what they want to do because I feel like either way they should be looking as a playoff contender this season with a rookie quarterback or if they go for Nick Foles. And then you also look at they are in the red in the salary. So that would be a major factor when it comes down to his final year. Like they're looking at a 1-year stint with this guy. If they go for rookie, they have a rookie contract where it's multiple years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, if it's always better to get the rookie deal. I mean, if you're guaranteed, but
well, my point is, you get 1 year of Nick Foles, or you get.
Why would you get 1 year of Nick Foles?
Because he'll have the option, and the franchise tag him. They only got that for 1 year, and then he'll ask for a lot of money, but they're really low on the cap space.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're trading for Nick Foles, you're not just getting him for 1 year. You'd be looking at extending him. You would have an agreement in place saying, okay, Nick Foles, we'll trade for you if you sign this contract. And then I don't think – I would find it really hard to believe that Jacksonville would, or any team would trade – any assets for Nick Foles and only play him under the franchise tag. I mean, obviously, it could happen, but that would be weird.
Yeah, well, Jacksonville as well. Yeah, I just don't know what Jacksonville is. What their plan is if they had Nick Foles, but I just think it's the better move, in my opinion, to stick with a rookie quarterback that has all the talent in the world. Because the two even Drew Lock has all the talent. Daniel Jones has a great talent, and with the team they have around him,
let me ask you
win.
this. Mm-hmm. Dwayne Haskins or Kyler Murray or Drew Lock. Mm-hmm. A Jacksonville team with one of those guys, do you think they'd have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl? Do you think their odds would be better at winning the Super Bowl next year with one of them or with Nick Foles?
Well, that's hard to say.
Just asking you. No, don't worry about the money. I'm just asking you a simple question. Do you think that their odds would be better with Nick Foles or with a rookie quarterback?
I think, honestly, they're roughly the same.
Okay.
That's why I say if you get Nick Foles, I have no complaint about it. I say, yeah, go for it. But if you get a rookie quarterback, I think you have the same amount of opportunities because you still have the same team around them that Nick Foles can win with and a rookie quarterback can win with.
But you have to factor in you have no idea what to expect from a rookie quarterback. He could be terrible. I mean, he could be god-awful.
Very true. And we don't know if Nick Foles can be. What if Nick Foles comes in
terrible?
Well,
we're pretty certain Nick Foles won't be awful. I mean, we're pretty sure about that, right?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, honestly, are you being honest when you say that?
We've seen.
Would you expect Nick Foles to be?
I'm not expecting
crappy?
him to be like Jamarcus Russell, but to be like that Super Bowl MVP like quarterback. That's a lot to live up to, and that's a lot of expectation. Mm-hmm. And again, it's just a whole different scenario. And I just think it's thinking he can just come off right off and still be Super Bowl MVP caliber. I think I need to see him in a couple of games.
Well, Super Bowl MVP caliber, I mean, that was one game. But he's been good since he's played. I mean, the last 2 years, and you know it. You're big on him.
I'm big on him, but I'm just saying that I think they'll be all about the hype of his Super Bowl MVP rather than a full 17-game season. Because when's the last time he actually had a 16-game season? Excuse me.
Yeah, it's been quite some time.
Yeah, he hasn't actually played a full year in quite some time, which that's also a major concern for me.
Yeah, we will see what happens. I think ultimately a second or third round pick is what the Eagles will get for him, but I don't think it'll be more than that. Probably just a second or a third, just because it's the financial part. If he was locked up long term, was on a good contract, then they could get at least one first round pick for Foles, maybe two. But it's the financial part. They know a team knows that they're going to commit a lot of money to Nick Foles.
And honestly, if I had to pick a Florida team to go for Nick Foles, I can honestly see Tampa Bay going for him because we really don't know who their quarterback is going to be, and Bruce Arians loves to work with different quarterbacks, and I think he can do something good with Foles.
Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked just because they're committed to Jameis Winston. I mean, they're going to ride this Jameis Winston project out. And although personally,
I don't see anything in Jameis. I think Winston's done, in my opinion.
Personally, I don't care for Jameis Winston, but he has a big arm, and I think he has all the talent to thrive under Arians. I just don't think it will work out, but the skills, the potential is there. They're going to see what they have in Jameis Winston. Management is not ready to cut bait with him. So I know that was a big deal on why they chose Arians to come in, was because Arians is really good with quarterbacks. And management knows that if anybody can get anything out of Winston, it's him, which I believe. I think that was a really great hire in terms of where the franchise is. But yeah, I don't know. For me, I think Foles' most likely landing spot could be Denver, New York, Jacksonville, or Washington. I think it's one of those four teams.
I think New York still has that. You're talking about the Giants, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And with them, I don't know what their thoughts are about Eli Manning right now. That's still a major, we don't know what they're going to do.
I'm sure they'll just keep Eli Manning for the next 5 years.
Well, I'm sure not 5 years, of course, but for the next 1 or 2, we don't know.
I thought they should have moved on from him 3 or 4 years ago, and he's still on the team.
Yeah, so you just think, just because I think, I see what you're saying there.
I feel like Eli Manning to the New York Giants is Marvin Lewis to the Cincinnati Bengals. They should move on, but we'll just keep going.
Absolutely. And the fact is, if Nick Foles does go to New York, but Manning will still be the starting quarterback until he decides to leave. The Giants won't make him or cut him or trade him or anything. It's all up to Eli Manning what he wants to do. Eli Manning has them by the cojones at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So if Eli decides to retire, then I say New York goes all in for Nick Foles. I truly believe that. Mm-hmm. But if he decides to stay, I don't see him going to New York because they're so in love with Eli Manning because of what he's done with that team in the past. They don't want to upset him in any way, shape, or form, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So Eli Manning puts the Giants in a tight bond. I think Nick Foles would do great with Saquon Barkley behind him, and if Odell Beckham Jr. stays, we don't even know if that's going to happen. He plays well with him. But if Eli Manning stays, then I don't think Nick Foles goes there.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it could be also one of those things where if they do go after Foles and they get him, then they cut Eli Manning. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to move Eli before they go get Foles. They can just wait and see if they get Foles.
If they
I don't know,
Eli
man.
Manning, that's
I don't know.
Rare.
I don't know what they're going to do, but I definitely think they should do that because
we think
Odell
they should do
Beckham
something.
is a better Alshon Jeffrey, but they're similar in terms of how they can be utilized and how Nick Foles utilized Jeffrey. Saquon Barkley obviously is just maybe one of the top 3 or 4 running backs in the NFL, and I don't think that's overstepping when you say that, even though he's a rookie. I mean, the guy is dynamite, and that offense could be electric, especially if they get Nick Foles. So we'll see what happens with them, but we should probably take a break.
Sure, we can take a break, but first I want to talk to you guys about investing. Because when investing and planning for your retirement, it's always best to get advice from the experts. Best-selling author Harry Dent, America's #1 economist, says the dark window is open. There's an opportunity to rapidly boost your retirement savings for the greatest stock market crash in American history. But this dark window won't be open for long. You can make up to 10 times the annual average stock market gain in just a few short months. Find out more by going to www.harrydentforecast.com. There's a very short time to take advantage of this dark window opportunity. So once again, go to www.harrydentforecast.com to learn more.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Just finished talking about the whole Nick Foles debacle that's been going on. Now, should we do mock draft?
We probably talk
else?
about where the Oakland Raiders may or may not play next year.
It sounds like Oracle Park is a no-go for the Oakland Raiders. It sounds like the 49ers will not let off their territorial rights. But overall, it sounds like to me they will stay in Oakland, beg to come back like an ex-girlfriend or something like that, or play at Levi's Stadium.
Yeah, so the 49ers exercised their territorial rights and will not let the Oakland Raiders play in San Francisco. Going back to the drawing board for the Raiders, we don't know. We still don't know where they'll play next year. Most likely, like you said, they play in Oakland or possibly at Levi Stadium where the 49ers play. I think that's ultimately what the league wants, is them to play in Levi's for a year, but Raiders owner Mark Davis seems to be pretty stubborn and doesn't want to do that, probably because everybody wants him to do it. So
he is that kind of guy, isn't he?
Oh yeah. So we won't know. We don't know where the Raiders will play next year. Moving on though, Antonio Brown was in the news for the wrong reasons.
Yes, he was.
He's being investigated for a domestic violence incident involving him and the mother of his child.
Yes, and that is a serious issue because we don't know where he's going to be. There's talks of him being traded. There's talks of him staying. We don't know what his future holds, but this definitely hurts his future.
Allegedly, he pushed her down, and that's what's being investigated. That is what is being alleged at this moment in time. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what comes out of that report, see if there is an arrest made or whatnot. But it definitely hurts his trade market. We know that him and the Steelers have been at odds since, week 17 or so, maybe
Roughly.
even longer than that. But that was when he was deactivated for the game in week 17, which the Steelers ultimately missed out on the playoffs. We've heard he was wanted a trade. Still very early in offseason, though, so I'm not sure. We don't know if things will get smoothed out. Do you think that they'll smooth things out before they trade him, or do you think that his time in Pittsburgh is over?
I think they've kept going, trying to work with him, and there's always just been this serious issue between them. There's always been this, a tension, and this is not the first occurrence of tension between the Steelers organization and Antonio Brown. So honestly, I feel like this whole situation it's going to end in a breakup.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's definitely possible they trade him, but I think it might be more likely that they work it out. They come to a resolution. It's just really hard to trade a player like that and get equal value. And I don't know if the Steelers are in a position where they're looking to rebuild, because they're obviously not. They have a team that's ready to win now. You get a couple players here and there, and you're all of a sudden back to being a Super Bowl contender. And I think the Steelers are, when you look at their roster right now, they're just as Super Bowl ready as most teams in the NFL going forward when looking at next year and the season after that. But sending Brown away, you're probably getting back future assets, maybe draft picks, but probably not anyone in a trade that's going to make you better, or at least the same right away. But you never know. That's just looking at it from the outside. I don't know. But this definitely, if they are interested in trading for him, obviously this puts a damper on things, and it might delay a situation where maybe a team is looking for resolution before they trade for him.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the Steelers are on a downhill slump, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to get good before it gets it's going to get bad before it gets better for them.
As a team, or for them and
team,
Antonio Brown?
Just as a team. They're going to lose Roethlisberger extremely soon, probably in the next year or so. And just how they played this year was a struggle, and I just don't see them improving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a lot of improvement coming from this team. So if they don't make the playoffs the next year, I will not be surprised.
Yeah, wasn't there some crazy stat that they've never missed the playoff 2 years in a row, or it's been 35 or 40 years? It's some crazy number.
I think sometime in the 60s or something like that was.
That is an insane stat if that's true.
Yeah. But it's again one of those things where they're due, I guess you can say, in a way to speak it like that. So yeah, there's a lot of questions about this team, and I just think I don't see them winning. I honestly don't.
Yeah, I mean, they are kind of at a crossroads as a franchise, right? Like, Roethlisberger's getting older. Le'Veon Bell's likely gone. It's just one of those things where they have a lot of talent, but they have some big decisions to make. So, the Alabama Crimson Tide, they end the second. So there's 2 National Signing Day. There's the one in December, and then there's the one that happens in February, early February. Alabama is regarded as having the number 1 recruiting class in the nation.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Did not see that coming.
Mm-hmm.
The best school in the nation getting all the best players. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that was expected. I would have been actually shocked if they didn't get at least number 2.
Yeah, so a lot of SEC schools won, quote unquote. In fact, some people are saying this is the most dominant recruiting year by one conference in the history of these rankings. And this is obviously based on where the players are ranked, top 300, I guess they call these players when they rank them. So we will see what happens, but obviously Alabama, they can go right back to getting all the best players like they normally do, right?
They'll be fine. If they're not back in the national championship next year, that would surprise me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that would surprise everybody.
Yeah, it's becoming one of those things where you can pretty much pencil them in as the odds-on favorite every single year. Now, I know you wanted to talk about the latest mock drafts.
Yes,
and we can do that after we go to a break.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll break down the latest mock drafts. Where it's fun to do this because, as we know, in the NFL offseason, now the draft is April the 23rd, I believe. It's always the end of April, so it's that last week. It's always fun to look at the mock drafts, how they evolve, right? So we look at them now. They've already evolved from like a month ago. Combine comes up. Pro days come up. And a lot of things change. Players get hurt, unfortunately. Red flags come up about their past. Things happen. Players emerge. Players fall. But it's always fun to kind of go through the process in the offseason. So we'll do that when we return. But before we do that, I want to tell you about investing and planning for your retirement. It's always best to get advice from the experts. Best-selling author Harry Dent, America's #1 economist, says the dark window is open. There's an opportunity to rapidly boost your retirement savings before the greatest stock market crash in American history. But this dark window won't be open for long. You can make 10 times the annual average stock market gain in just a few short months. According to the research of renowned Harvard economist Harry Dent, though, this window could slam shut later this year, and nobody on Wall Street is expecting it. This dark window is something bigger by far than anything he's predicted up to this point, and you can make 10 times the annual average stock market gain. Find out more by going to www.harrydentforecast.com. There is a very short time to take advantage of this dark window, so go to www.harrydentforecast.com to learn more.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, we're back with the GSMC Sports or Football Podcast. You can check out our sports podcast and other podcasts such as basketball, since the trade deadline is today. We'll talk a lot about that. Tune in that later. But anyways, regardless, let's go to the favorite that is the mock draft. I love mock drafts. I love the draft time in the NFL because they always are exciting. I don't know why they're more exciting than most. Maybe it's because teams they benefit more from drafts than most than anything else. But regardless, this is basically the the Nick Bosa draft, isn't it?
Is it? I've seen him
at number one.
I've seen him move, though. It's definitely not as locked in as it was a few months ago.
Yeah, but this Mel Kiper's draft, which is probably the one people look at the most, I would say. Mm-hmm. Maybe the most popular one, has Nick Bosa still at number one. And that is going to the Arizona Cardinals. I believe that's because he also fits well with that defense, supposedly. So we will see how that goes. He did come off an injury this season, leaving Ohio State to train for the draft, which I'm assuming he trained mainly for the combine stuff. So he looks better, assumingly, because I'm assuming he's going to the combine because he's coming off an injury. I'm assuming he would go there to prove that he's healthy.
Why would he go there?
Because what I just said, to prove that he's healthy.
But if he's projected to go number one, why would he ruin that?
Because he's still coming off a serious injury and he left Ohio State. I would say that's still.
But how can it help him? Is what I'm asking you.
I don't know. I just feel like maybe.
Like if somebody says, Jeff, you're the best player in the draft, what is your incentive to prove it to them if they already think you are?
Well, there's always been guys that have dropped in the past due to injury concerns, and he might drop. I don't know. We still are a couple months away. We still have some time before April. So anything could happen in between that point. So there could be some questions about his health by that point.
I'd be shocked if he participated in the combine. I think he might have a pro day. That's something where he controls what he does. He probably won't run. He probably won't do anything, to be honest with you, except for look good in front of the cameras.
Some workouts. I'm assuming he's going to do some workouts in front of teams.
It's just way more risky than rewarding. Like the reward for him to do a combine or a pro day is very, 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 very low. In fact, I don't even know if there is a reward because if they think he's the best, all he can do is hurt that claim, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's still a lot of aspects out there, but we'll see where he goes. He's still projected number one by Mel Kiper, and that's to Arizona. He's expected to make a recovery from his core muscle injury. That's what it's
right
considered as. So that kind of leaves questions still to me, to be honest with you. But anyways, number two is where it's changed more than not. It used to be Josh Allen, and it used to be Ed Oliver from Houston. Now it's Quinnen Williams out of Alabama. This will be the third. This is the 49ers pick. So this would be, I believe, the third consecutive year the Niners would pick a defensive tackle, a defensive end, a defensive lineman, which is unheard of, honestly. But this is Mel Kiper's words, not mine, but he is considered one of the college football's best players, not just defenders this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just did want to say that just in case someone disagrees, that's not my words. But extremely high on Quinnen Williams. But honestly, if I had to pick, if I'm the 49ers, I might have to go Josh Allen over Quinnen Williams because the edge rusher and linebacker position would be taken by him, and they need a linebacker just on the outside. After losing Reuben Foster, they need any type of linebacker in their defense, I believe.
Josh Allen would be he'd be a defensive end in their team, though. Like he's an edge rusher.
They've done this before with a guy by the name of Aldon Smith, who was going into the draft as an outside linebacker, and because
he was in a 3-4 defense in college. But if he plays in a 4-3, then he'd become a defensive end. So,
but I think he can do just as dangerous on the outside because I feel like they need an edge rusher more than a tackle. I'm not sure if they I don't think you put Quinnen Williams at the end, obviously, but I feel like they need an edge rusher because they already had DeForest Buckner at tackle. I know you would be a great combination of Buckner and Williams.
Would be nice.
It would be, but shouldn't you have more help on the edge rather than just help him down the middle?
My theory is just pick the best player. I don't care what position you play, to be honest with you. When you draft that high in the draft, pick the best player. Like, pick who you think has the best chance of being a stud, who you think is the best chance of being a Hall of Famer, who you think the best chance of being a Pro Bowler. Just pick that guy. It doesn't matter if it's running back. It doesn't matter if it's tackle. It doesn't matter defensive line, linebacker. So you're just looking for an impact player. I mean, sure, they do have a good interior defensive lineman. You mentioned DeForest Buckner. But what if I told you that Quinnen Williams is the next Aaron Donald? Would you not take him? You know what I mean? Like, if you knew that.
It was guaranteed he'd be the next
Yeah,
Aaron
like
Donald?
if I said if you take him, he is the next Aaron Donald.
Well, of course you're going to pick him, but that's the point of the draft. You really don't.
But, I mean, it's based on your scouting department. If your scouting department says, dude, Quinnen Williams is...
I'm taking nothing away from Quinnen Williams. I think he's a terrific player myself, but it's just what would fit the team better, an edge rusher or another defensive tackle? That's the ultimate question.
I'm just somebody who thinks that drafting for fit is probably the dumbest thing a team can do in sports.
I disagree with that one. I think fit is a big part of it.
Yeah, go for the best players, and then everything else will work itself out. Go for fit and free agency. That seems to work better.
All right. Well, we'll see how everything turns out. But sometimes there's been a great player that's attracted a team that does not fit him, and he becomes kind of a bust.
If everything is equal, then go for fit. Like, if you think this guy's a B+, and that guy's a B+, but I need a cornerback and I don't need a linebacker, take the cornerback, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But if you have Khalil Mack, but the best player available is Von Miller, I want both of them. Mm-hmm. I want a third one if I can get it. You know what I mean? Like, just keep giving me that blue chip talent, and I'll figure it out. I'll make trades if I need to, but I just I want those best players funneling in, even if I'm strong at that position.
Okay. Well, let's move to number 3. That goes to Josh Allen going to, I believe the Jets are at number 3. But that's actually, like, people were thinking offensive tackle for them. They were thinking other positions, but it looks like Josh Allen will be the best available player at number 3. He had 66 tackles and 1 interception and 7 sacks in 2017. Then he went to have 17 sacks and 5 forced fumbles in this year. So, and he can be, like, I feel like him and Quinnen Williams are pretty, they're 2 great players. So, honestly, the 49ers could win with either one, in my opinion. But I do understand why he has them dropped to see a number 3 pick for Josh Allen.
Yeah, I like Josh Allen. I think he's my favorite player in the draft because he does everything well. I know I just talked about Khalil Mack a few minutes ago. I feel like he's the closest to Khalil Mack of anybody in this draft. He tackles for loss, sacks. He's just everywhere, and I like his upside. I also really like his tenacity and his attitude. So we'll see. Could be a great pick.
Yes, it could. There's still a lot of potential with Jared Allen. So anything could really happen, and when it comes down to it. And with that comes, if I'm looking at a website on the ESPN website, and I was reading them all until I got the subscribe to ESPN Plus. So I don't think I can actually look at this.
Oh man, that's a critical error, you know?
I was reading it all fine, and then all of a sudden this ESPN Plus app came up. I'm like, what?
You got to subscribe to ESPN Plus.
But I guess $4.99 a month is cheap, but
and it's a free trial.
Yeah, true. Granted. All right, maybe I should do that. But I'll look at I'll move to another mock draft that's just as interesting.
This was the you're talking about the Kuiper one?
Yeah, I'll move to there's like 30 other ones, so I think it would be fine. They're usually the first 3 are roughly the same, regardless.
Well, I see Kuiper's big board.
It stops at number 3 for me. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Does it stop at number 3 for you?
Kuiper's big board is what you're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have ESPN Plus. So number 4 is linebacker Devin White, LSU.
See, he's moved up a bunch.
Mm-hmm. He is. He's a guy.
Honestly, I saw also Gary from Michigan up there too.
Devin White might be the most versatile linebacker. He can play inside and outside, so it depends on where teams are thinking of using him. He's not really like a true pass rusher, so I think he's more of a versatile player, which is great, which is probably perfect for this type of NFL in 2019, where you need kind of hybrid players to be able to do multiple things. So he could be a very good pick. Dwayne Haskins, he has as the 5th best prospect.
Number 4 is Oakland, correct?
Right, but what this isn't putting them on teams. This is just the big board. So Haskins is number 5, Jonah Williams is number 6, Rashawn Gary 7, Kyler Murray number 8. So what do you think about Haskins being 5 and Kyler Murray being 8?
I think it's all based off size. I don't think there's any other reason than that, in my opinion, because and Murray's been kind of a question mark since his decision not to play baseball or his decision to play baseball. We really don't. There's a lot of different controversies around him and not Haskins. Haskins seems more of a sure thing, not a sure thing playing wise, but just like overall fitting the team wise than Kyler Murray, and of course, like I said, height wise is a big factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Haskins, I mean, he's the prototype, right? Like, he's 6'3", 220. That's pretty much the perfect size in today's NFL. A lot of times quarterbacks are bigger than that. Some of them are okay, but I think 6'3" is about the sweet spot.
Why do you think Paxton Lynch got drafted in the first round? He was, 6'8"?
He was big, yeah. He was huge. So, usually guys are too short or too tall. Some might not be perfect, but usually 6'3" is about the sweet spot. Dwayne Haskins. So I don't know where he's gonna go. I'm kind of. I mean, obviously we're still really far away. We're over 2.5 months away from the draft. So
yeah, but it still needs to be discussed. It's a serious.
Now the quarterbacks I think are going to be the biggest movers and shakers. A lot of these other guys, yes, they'll improve or hurt their stock by maybe pro days or combine numbers, but I think the quarterbacks are the biggest X factors here, because if Haskins lights it up at the combine, it's easy to see why a team could fall in love with him, maybe pick him number 1, like even move up and get him. You know, a team, they might be like, oh, this is the guy.
Draft trades really shake a lot things up in this
Kyler Murray could be 5'8", and then teams are scared of him, and then he falls into the end of the first round. I mean, there's a lot of moving and shaking. Drew Lock, you mentioned him.
Drew Lock's been moving up in some mock
Who's the other quarterback from
Daniel
Duke?
Jones.
Yeah, Daniel Jones from Duke.
He won the MVP of the Senior Bowl, which might help him out in the long run.
I mean, these are the guys that their pro days, their combine, that's really going to decide where they get picked. I do think we'll see 4 first-round quarterbacks. I do, just because of the position. I think in the NFL nowadays, if you don't have a quarterback, like, you need to get one. You need to draft one. And it's always best to get one. You know, you get a young quarterback you can groom. He's cheaper, so it makes a lot of sense. Maybe a team like Jacksonville, like we talked about earlier, Jacksonville, they want to go the cheaper route. Maybe they think Kyler Murray can take them to the Super Bowl next year. Maybe they pull the trigger. And maybe the New York Giants think Dwayne Haskins is the successor to Eli Manning, so they get him now instead of waiting until next year or something like that. There's a lot of stuff that'll happen. I think the first and foremost, though, knowing what happens with Nick Foles, that's the first domino that's going to fall, right? Like, if Nick Foles goes to one of these quarterback-needy teams, then it kind of changes the complexion of what the first round might look like.
Absolutely, yes, you're right. And with that, like, I've even seen like Kyler Murray drop to number 11 to the Bengals, which is still a very real possibility. And I get that and all, but honestly, like, this draft is going to come down to those, like you said, the trades, because they could. When people drop down, it's going to be mainly because of the trades, and that's why like some players don't get drafted in the first top 5 like they're projected to, because that's what the team needs are in that situation. But in reality, if Jacksonville or if someone trades over Jacksonville to try to get a quarterback they want, that changes everything.
Big defensive line draft, big tight end draft.
Oh, this is a defensive draft for sure.
I've seen, I think, 11 tight ends in the top 100 prospects, which is the most at any position.
You know why? Because I think tight ends now are so more maybe not useful, but it's more along the lines of like just so important rather than just like anything else. Like we've seen George Kittle, we've seen Travis Kelce and Zach Ertz be these super important guys on their respective teams. That tight ends are now becoming a major part of everyone's offense.
Right now, the number 1 ranked tight end and the number 3 ranked tight end are both from Iowa, which is interesting.
That's where George Kittle was from.
That's where George Kittle went to school. Maybe Iowa is now the tight end U.
Mm-hmm. Tight end U. Should they just change the name to tight end?
Because it was Notre Dame for a long time. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame had Eifert. They had Kyle Rudolph. I think I'm missing a couple. But Carlson.
Let's hold on a second because Iowa just only has George Kittle for now. If that's successful in the NFL, we'll see how these guys do later on.
Yeah, I'm just saying 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could have 3.
Oh, no, I'm not taking them away. But again, we've seen so many times these guys are ranked so high, and we don't hear from them again. That's why I don't say that.
I do like that there's Michael Jordan in this draft from Ohio State, center.
Wow, he got that fat?
Nope. It's a different guy, believe it or not.
It's a very common name, so that doesn't really surprise me. Because we had a Josh Allen last year, and he was a quarterback. So
right now, Greedy Williams and DeAndre Baker, the number 1 and number 2 DBs.
Love that name, by the way.
Andreas Greedy Williams.
He's Greedy Williams. He's always going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfect for a cornerback, Greedy, because he's going to want the ball a lot. I love that. I think it's great.
It is. He is a tall corner, too. 6'3".
That's why he's so highly touted. You don't see a 6'3" corner at all. And he has the package of a corner. Like, he has the speed. He can guard anyone one-on-one. We've seen it in college. We say LSU. Every time he was the main number 1 receiver, he was guarding them, and he was usually being a total, like, he was shadowing him. He stopped them in every sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
So I love Greedy Williams. I think he could be great wherever he goes to. It sounds like to me, or it feels like to me, that the draft, he's going to Tampa Bay. That's where I see a lot of mock drafts for him.
Yeah,
but
makes sense.
A lot of
obviously that pass defense was one of the worst that I can remember.
Yeah, but you know who I can see trading up for that is like Kansas City or something like that. Try to get a Greedy Williams because they would love to have a guy like that.
Yeah, possibly.
But again, you have to give up a lot if you're Kansas City. But I'm saying like a Kansas City team, if they had a Greedy Williams, honestly, I would put them as like my favorite for the Super Bowl.
Anyways, I think that's our show for today.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and tune us in tomorrow. We will talk about something. Hopefully more football stuff happens.
Maybe more draft coverage.
Yes, most likely.
As we break down the prospects entering the draft. And we can go from there. Obviously, we'll talk about other news in the NFL and in college football, of course.
Yes, and as always, I'm Jeff Malinoff. That's Mark Souza. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.